Hi everyone, Michelle here with Just for Sweets, and today I am going to do a nothing bundt cake dupe. The flavor I chose is a double chocolate chip. This is actually a birthday cake for my sister. So let's get going and I'll show you how I do this. So what we're gonna need for this cake is just a few ingredients here. I have a pack of fudge brownie mix. This is a bag from Dollar Tree. You can also use a box from the grocery store. A chocolate cake mix. I also have 4 eggs at room temperature. I have a vanilla Greek yogurt. I like to use this in place of half the oil. This is a half a cup of olive oil. And I use a 1.25 cups of buttermilk instead of the water. And, oh, I forgot about the 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm in a high altitude, so we have to use that here. And my secret ingredient is hot coffee. I use approximately a 1/2 cup freshly brewed, or if you don't want to use hot coffee, you can use coffee granules or instant coffee as well. So let's get started on making this amazing cake. Go ahead and get your oven preheated to 350 degrees. Now, as you can see, I had already poured the buttermilk into my mixing bowl, and I'm going to use the whisk attachment. Here's my Bundt pan, and I have cooking spray to spray the pan with. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add the buttermilk, like I said, which I had already put in the bowl. Showing you that. And then we are going to move on to the other ingredients. This is just how I choose to do my cake mixes, and I'm using... Sorry about that interruption. I got a phone call and it cut off all my voiceovering. So I'm pouring in the cake mix. This is just the chocolate cake mix right directly into the buttermilk. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm opening the brownie mix and I will be pouring in the brownie mix now. Like I said, you can use a box if you like. This is just a bag I had on hand from the Dollar Tree. So I'm sticking that in the mixing bowl as well. The next thing you want to add is your 1/2 cup of olive oil. Now you can replace that with vegetable oil, canola oil, coconut oil, whatever you like. I just chose olive oil this time, an extra virgin olive oil. And then I have my vanilla Greek yogurt that I'm putting in. Now you can also use plain yogurt or sour cream if you want to do that. So whatever you have on hand, go ahead and put that in the bowl as well. And then we are going to begin mixing with that whisk attachment. But don't forget your 2 tablespoons of flour if you're in a higher altitude. If not, I don't know if you have to add that or not. You start to whisk, turn it on to a low speed. So if you're using a hand mixer, low speed to begin with so you don't get powder everywhere. And then you're just going to mix that up and slowly increase the speed of your mixer. Now at this point it's going on a high speed. I turn it off and you want to scrape the edges of the bowl all the way around to get any loose powder that's at the bottom, especially with these mixers, the KitchenAid mixers. Sometimes the dry doesn't come up. You want to start that again at a slow speed and then speed it up again to the highest speed possible. Then we are going to start putting in our eggs. I do 1 at a time and there's a total of 4 eggs like I told you. So 1 at a time, mix well in between each egg. I usually do that right about on a medium speed and add those eggs in until completely mixed before we move on to the next step. Now you want to make sure that everything is incorporated. I do this on a very high speed. And then once we do that, then it's time to add our 1/2 cup of hot coffee, or at this point you can add your granules if you're using instant coffee instead. But you want to turn this down to a low speed before adding the coffee, because if not, coffee is going to splatter all over you. Trust me, I have learned the hard way in my years of baking. So just add that at a very slow rate. Plus it's still warm, so you want to incorporate it slowly. So go ahead and go slow on that, and then as it mixes in, you are going to increase the speed 1 more time. And probably go for about another 30 seconds to a minute to make sure that's all incorporated in there. Now this is an optional step. I decided to add some dark chocolate chips to this chocolate cake to make it extra chocolatey. So I'm just using approximately 3/4 of a cup or so, maybe half cup of the dark chocolate chips. And as you'll notice later in my video, I changed to a different brand of dark chocolate chips, but that's because I ran out of this brand. So the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure and you want to grease that pan. Now I am just using a spray grease. This is a spray canola oil. If you don't have Pam or any kind of spray grease, you can use butter or shortening and just put it in there, a light coating of it, and then you want to add some flour and shake that around the pan. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start pouring that batter into your cake pan very slowly so it doesn't spill everywhere. And I try to get it as even as possible. And you want to make sure those chocolate chips, they kind of sink to the bottom when you're mixing. So you want to make sure and get a rubber spatula and get those chocolate chips out of there to get them into that cake mix, or into that cake pan, I should say. And so we just get that all incorporated in there. And then it's ready to be popped in our oven at 350 degrees. I probably should have said that at the beginning. I will go ahead and attach something at the beginning of that and also put it in the description box below. 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And you are going to bake this cake for approximately 55 minutes. I did 50, checked it at 50, and it needed 5 more minutes, but you might want to put it at 45 to 50. Now, while it's baking, I have my ingredients together for my frosting. You have 8-ounce block of cream cheese. You're also going to use a half a cup of butter that is softened. I have the cream cheese still cold. And then we use powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, whatever you want to call it. And then I like to use real vanilla. I don't really prefer imitation vanilla. Mine is a vanilla I get on Amazon. And then this is the tip that I'm using. Now this is a set that I got from Pampered Chef. It is their decorating bag and tips. So this is like a large round tip. So if you go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby and buy one, you can get a Wilton one or something that's the larger tip, get that. And then I have my pastry bag and then the attachment to get the tip in there. So here's my chocolate cake fresh out of the oven. Like I told you, it was 55 minutes on 350 degrees, but you need to do it according to your oven. You can see that it's kind of lopsided and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a bread knife once the cake is cooled down mostly, and I just kind of slide it across the top of the cake to make it more even so that you don't see all those lumps and bumps. So here it is, as I've already trimmed everything down. It's nice and even now. I'm gonna go ahead and show you, that's the extra cake that I get to snack on. Like I need it. Anyway, this is the bread knife I used, and I just kind of use the pan as my guide, and I go along and I slice that extra cake off of there so that you have a more even surface to work with. And this is the cake plate I chose to use, me and my Dollar Tree, that's right. So this is from the Dollar Tree. It's a nice little cake plate that you can give to someone. It costs you $1 and then you don't need to worry about getting it back, and it looks pretty. So once the cake is cooled, I go ahead, you can see it's a little warm here, but I go ahead and I place that on top of my Bundt pan. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over, holding on to both. So you can see that Bundt pan sitting on top of the cake plate now. And then you remove that and your cake should slide right out if it's cool enough. Now mine are usually semi-warm, semi-cool. I don't cool them completely, but you can. If you'd like to, excuse me, I have to clear my throat here. So now this is all ready for decorating. So what we need to do is we need to make that frosting and get this beautiful cake decorated and ready to eat. Okay, so now to the frosting. I use the paddle attachment for my frosting. I guess everyone can be different, but that's the one I choose to use. So I'm attaching that. And the next thing I want to do is I want to put my half stick of butter, or my stick of butter, which is a half cup that has been softened at room temperature, not in the microwave, into the pan. Yes, my hands are clean. Then you're going to take your block of cold cream cheese right out of the refrigerator, and you're going to open that up and put that right into the bowl. So I go ahead and I lift that bowl up, and I'm gonna start mixing before I do any other ingredients. Do it at a very low speed to begin with, because the cream cheese is cold and the butter is soft. So you are mixing it up and you want to get them incorporating correctly and smoothly. So I find that this is the best method for me. I start low, I increase slowly, and then I go to a high rate of speed, the highest it'll go, and I go ahead and mix that up. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to scrape your bowl all the way around and at the bottom, because the cream cheese and butter do stick. That's kind of the consistency it is now. And then we're going to turn it back on again to incorporate those things that we have scraped from the bottom. The next thing you want to do is add your powdered sugar. And I cannot give you an exact measurement. I use approximately 2 cups of powdered sugar. If that is too sweet for you, add less. If it's not sweet enough, add more. But that is about what I do. So then the next thing you want to do as you are mixing in the powdered sugar is you want to add your vanilla. Now, I'm really bad. I don't get out measuring spoons. I just use the cap of my vanilla. So I would say it's approximately a teaspoon of vanilla. You can add 2 teaspoons if you like, depending again on the flavor that you like, but I recommend 1 normally. So you want to continue mixing this. Now what I do is I do it on a very high rate of speed. It breaks down the cream cheese, it breaks down the butter, and it gets everything mixed up. I also add just a couple drizzles of heavy whipping cream. Now don't add too much, because if you do, your cream cheese frosting will be way too runny. And if you notice, Nothing Bundt Cakes is a thicker cream cheese frosting. So you could even add an extra 4 ounces of cream cheese to this if you want. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some more of my powdered sugar. I do little increments at a time. I don't do it all at once, because I really, really like it to mix in there well and break down everything, because I want a creamy consistency in my frosting. So here we go, mixing on the low speed again. As it mixes in, we will slowly increase to medium and then to high, and then I will just let it be until it's the consistency and texture that I want it to be. Don't forget to, in between, scrape that bowl every now and then. You want to get those chunks pulled up from the bottom so that they are blended in there very well. Now another thing I like to do to make it look more like Nothing Bundt Cakes is I take some white gel coloring to make the frosting a little bit more on the white side, because typically the butter and the vanilla can make it be a yellowish color and not that bright white like you see on theirs. So I usually add probably about 5 or 6 drops of that food coloring, just to really bring out the white in the frosting. That's definitely an optional step, not something that has to be done. Next, what I want to do is I want to put my pastry bag together. So I have my tip, like I told you earlier, is a larger tip. It's just the circle. So I have my coupler or coupler or whatever it's called. Maybe someone in the comments down below can tell me how to pronounce it. I don't even know if I can even read how to pronounce it. So you put the one piece inside the pastry bag, add the tip, and then you screw on the other piece, and that keeps it in place. I always take a clear glass or a glass of some sort that's a little bit on the deeper side, and I put my pastry bag in there. It makes it a lot easier to fill the bag up. So I just kind of fold it over the glass, and then I start scooping the frosting in until I get to the top, and then you'll see that I lift the bag up to keep getting more icing in there. Here you can kind of see the consistency and texture of the frosting. It's pretty thick, which is how you want it. And then it also doesn't have those lumps and bumps in it. It's a very creamy texture. So go ahead and fill that pastry bag, and then you're gonna go ahead and lift it up and kind of just hold it and cup it, and then you're going to add more frosting so that you can fill the bag as much as possible, so you're not having to fill it in between. Once you get that frosting in there, you want to push all the frosting down towards the tip and twist the top and hold it from the twist, and put slight pressure on the bag when icing it. You're going to start at the bottom and just slightly push it, because the frosting comes out pretty easy, and just go over the direction of the cake, and then I just let the rest of it fall inside the bundt cake. So continue this process all the way around. In between, I had to refill the icing, and now I'm going and finishing the cake, and I will show you what the center looks like with all that frosting in the middle, but don't worry, I finished the cake up so it looks really nice. As you can see, there are little pieces of frosting on the center of the cake, and you want to finish that up so it looks complete and nice. So what you do is you take the remainder of the frosting in the pastry bag and you squeeze it into the center, and I squeeze it almost all the way to the top, leaving a little bit left in the bowl actually, because I like to always add something in the center, so they're kind of a surprise cake. You don't have to do this step. You could just fill it with frosting if you want, or you can leave it without the frosting in the middle. With this one, here's where I told you I have the different chocolate chips. I'm adding more dark chocolate chips into the center of the cake. And then I'm going to take the remainder of the frosting out of the bowl and put it on top. And yes, this cake is for my family, so we do not have to worry about my fingers. I am not contracting any viruses. So spread that around until you cover up all of those chocolate chips. Okay, so here it is with everything covered up, and the very last step I do is I add a piece of decor using flowers from, you guessed it, the Dollar Tree, and I pick a white and then this pink and purple one. I kind of play around to see which one I want on top. The white is really pretty and simple, but I think I want something with a little more pop, so then I add the other flower instead. And here you have your beautiful Dupe Nothing Bundt cake. But I have a surprise that I do to all of my cakes, cupcakes, and desserts, so I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, so here is my surprise ingredient. It is disco dust. It is an edible glitter. This one is rose gold, and it just adds that little bit of pop and shine to the top of all of your cakes, cupcakes. You can add it to cookies and more. It's super, super fun to play with this, and it is what I use to top all of my cakes. So there is my dupe version of Nothing Bundt cakes. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you give me a thumbs up, leave some comments down below, make sure to hit that notification bell. And until next time, next video, thank you everyone, God bless.